Hello, fellow human light beings. Welcome back to the thunderwizard.com YouTube channel. Today, I am going to explain to you, and if we have time, I'm going to walk you through an advanced meditation which will activate the pineal gland and create a portal to 5D, which you can access at any time. The mantra Huar, which was given to me in June of 2022 by higher dimensional light beings. I have continued to use that and continued to experiment with it, and I'm finding out more and more of what this is. But in order to understand the power of this, we need to understand how the pineal gland works, why the pineal gland is so important. I mean, every spiritual tradition that actually has some teeth to it always talks about what we call the third eye. We feel it right here, but the truth is, it's the pineal gland. Pineal gland is the transceiver. It's both a transmitter and a receiver. And when it is properly activated, it creates a portal between the third dimension and the fifth dimension. With the advent of the Huar breath, this pineal gland now becomes an actual physical organ in our body that creates transformation to 5D. So, like me, I suggest that you don't wait around for some external transformation, although I do believe that is coming. I believe that the best way to interact with this is to make the transition happen for you now. So we're going to be talking about that. And by the way, once you learn how to stimulate this, let me just give you an idea of the power of the pineal gland. Once you learn how to stimulate it and use it, activate it and use it, you can heal yourself of any physical issue. You can also completely transform anything in your three-dimensional world, as well as transform your body and transform the world you're in into a 5D world. This is done with this thing in the middle of your brain called the pineal gland. All right, so we're going to be talking about that. I didn't start it off, but this is a visual representation of how this mantra is used. All right, so we are going to take a look at what makes this mantra up. As you know, I've been teaching the Hul breath, H-U-U-L breath, and that creates the higher ideal 3D reality, the Hul breath. The R sound is 5D. So what this mantra does is it raises 3D matter to 5D spirit. So just to be clear, there's absolutely nothing wrong with the third dimension in and of itself. It's a very beautiful place. But in order to enjoy the third dimension, you have to be conscious. You have to be somebody who understands the basics of what reality is, understand that you are a spiritual being having a three-dimensional experience, and to be able to enjoy this world. This world is beautiful. I mean, I love doing all kinds of things in 3D. So, the only problem is that 3D, because it gives you the experience of being isolated, separated from other consciousness, which is an illusion. Because of that, people then drop into their more animal frequency, which is about survival. So to be a true human means that you no longer need anything. You no longer worry about your physical survival because you have mastered this three-dimensional projection. You cannot master this three-dimensional projection if you are not in a continuous connected state with higher dimensional consciousness. And this has always been possible for humans. It's very difficult. And this has been an experiment. We created this 3D world. You did. So did I. Before we came here, we were very powerful, omnipotent, divine light beings, and we created this 3D experiment so that we could hone in on that understanding and have a physical experience of creating our reality. Unfortunately, the experiment wasn't something that a lot of people, most humans, have been able to master, and because of that, it's created such negativity based on people's fear and their survival mechanisms that this 3D plane is going to be destroyed, which is why this mantra, this Huar mantra, has been given to us. It's been given to us so that we can now actively change the vibration into another one. And so, as I said, I mean, I think it's very possible that come 5D time, this will be the Om of the 5D world, just like Ing was the Om of the Bronze Age. You know, when Indra was being worshipped in the Vedic tradition, they didn't chant Om, they chant Ing, which was the power of Kundalini rising up the spinal column. The Om is the complete understanding of the third dimension, past, present, and future, creation, maintenance, destruction, the three gods, Odin, Villian Ve. Om actually is Odin, Villian Ve, but it is most well known as Shiva, Brahma, and Vishnu. So now we're moving into a whole new realm in the 5D where we won't have to struggle with our unconscious versus our conscious mind. We will be in a state of consciousness. And when you're in a state of consciousness, you're in the eternal now, and you are continuously channeling five-dimensional reality and creating it as you go. We're going to talk about that because I do have all kinds of lists which will keep me on track. And if we have time, I'm going to get to the end of this and I'm going to teach you an advanced meditation. If I don't get to it today, it'll definitely be there. By the way, my plan is to do a guided meditation of the one I'm going to share with you, but I'm going to put that up here at the 90-day challenge. So if you're subscribed to the 90-day challenge, you can have access to the guided meditation. But don't worry, I will teach it to you. You'll be able to do it yourself if you want, or you can do the guided version. It's completely up to you. All right, so let us first, if you're new to the channel, what I need you to do is I need you to do these things. First, I need you to subscribe, like, and comment. Go to the playlist section. Click on the following playlist: the Maoshan Qigong, the Interdimensional Meditation, and the 12 Steps to 5D. Do at least one thing from at least one of those three playlists every day. And then I need you to go to subscribe to the Warrior 90-Day Lightning Qigong at thunderwizard.com website. Okay. All right, let's get started. So we have to understand how the pineal gland maintains 3D projection, creates your body environment. Understand that your reality is your creation. It is literally your creation, everything. Let's just start with the physical body. You have two people who are identical twins at birth. This happens all the time, and there's been studies done on the DNA of identical twins. When they're born, their DNA is identical. And so the scientific theory has been that DNA is a blueprint and you can't escape it. This is why people, you go and doctors will say, oh, you have a tendency, you've inherited a tendency for this disease or that disease. But I'm here to tell you that those inherited tendencies are not because the DNA is fixed. It's because that your parents' DNA or your grandparents' DNA, they have probably been taught ways of functioning in the world that create aberrant DNA, which creates disease, and they pass it on to you. They teach you how to be that way. Even if your DNA is aberrant, that is something that you can change with the way that you choose to interact with your environment. Victims create victimhood. It's just the way it works. If you are fearful, if you are angry, you will create that in your DNA. That will create physical illness, an imbalance within your body. It will also create imbalance in your external world. Your experience will be that your external world is doing it to you, that your body is doing it to you. But that's not how it works. And identical twins, when they get, middle-aged or older, you can check their DNA, and it turns out the people who are healthy, whose DNA, doesn't have, aberrant DNA in it that creates disease, you find out their attitude is completely different from their twin, who has a victim mentality, fear, anger, guilt, self-devaluation, and they have in their DNA things that create disease. So you have the power to create everything, including your physical body. And we're going to talk about how that is done. All right. So the pineal gland maintains your 3D projection. Your human body is a projection from higher dimensions. The third dimension is a screen. It's not really a world. We perceive it as a world because our brain does that. In fact, there are some scientists who believe that 3D is actually a two-dimensional reality, but our brain turns it into the third dimension. Whether that's true or not, I don't care. But I do know that even if it is third dimension, the third dimension is a projection. It doesn't have any life in and of itself. Life comes from light. And light, even physicists know this, all of the light in our third dimension is leaked in here from higher dimensions. So your life, your soul, has been projected onto the screen of the third dimension. And you create it every moment. Everything in it, your physical body, your external reality is created by you from a higher dimensional place. It's projected into the third dimension. So your pineal gland is a 5D to 3D transceiver. Transceiver means that it is both a transmitter and a receiver. It can transmit into 5D and it transmits into the third dimension, and it can also receive information from 5D. But most people's pineal gland has not been activated, which means that it's not able to receive and it's not able to transmit. So the only thing that ends up happening is that you end up reliving whatever's been projected onto your 3D screen based on your karma. And that's, people live out their karma, and it's a script that's been written for them, and they can't not act it out. If you activate the pineal gland and you know how to access higher dimensional energies and you know how to use your intention, then you can actually completely recreate your third dimensional experience. So the pineal gland is a 5D to 3D transceiver. 5D spirit projects your physical body, right? You get that? You see me on your screen as this two-dimensional person. Your brain turns me into 3D. You see me move around. It's not like, I have one ear and then all of a sudden another ear appears. Your brain turns my head into a 3D object. You just know that I've got another ear over here that you can't see, right? But this 3D physical body is a projection. It's created from the 5D mind. The mind maintains the 3D body environment. So what does that mean? So the mind is is a 3D non-physical software. This is why we need our mind. Our mind, by the way, is not your brain, it's not your intellect. When I say mind, most Westerners think intellect. Intellect is something else. Intellect is a software for the brain that allows you to figure things out, like what is good, what is bad, up, down, right, left, hot, cold. That's intellect. And most Westerners, in fact, today most people are completely trapped in their intellect. By the way, this is why people like to engage in THC. THC locks you so deeply in your intellect. It turns this two-dimensional intellect into something that feels really deep and powerful. Have you ever been around somebody who's high, but you're not, and they think that they've come across some really deep awareness, and you're listening to them and it sounds just absolutely ridiculous? You know, my favorite example is hey man, I'm looking at my thumbnail, man, and it's like, I'm wondering if like inside my thumbnail there's like a dude in there, and he's looking at his thumbnail and there's like another universe inside his. Oh wow, I have no idea what's going on. It's nonsense. But it feels so amazing because you're absolutely trapped in the two-dimensional intellect. So this is not your mind. Your mind is like the moon. In fact, moon means mind. You know that if you've read my books, you already know that the word moon means mind. And the word sun means soul. You'll have already known that if you've read my books. If you haven't, you can get them at michaelwilliamdenny.com. So the mind allows the 3D experience to begin to look at things from a higher perspective. So this is what meditation is all about. Meditation is about separating from the attachment to 3D, having your feelings and not being caught up in them, being aware, being able to be conscious of your thoughts and your feelings, and then being able from a distance to be able to take action in a positive, constructive manner. This is the whole point of meditation, to individuate from your attachment to the third dimensional need to be accepted, loved, and taken care of. So the mind maintains the 3D body environment. What do I mean by that? If your mind is connected to an activated pineal gland, then the mind becomes the receptacle for 5D understanding and consciousness. And from the mind, you can then project into the third dimension everything you want. But that's not possible if your pineal gland hasn't been activated. And if your pineal gland hasn't been activated, then you will basically be an animal, which means that you will be operating from self-preservation. You will be operating from fear, fight, or flight. You'll be either kissing people's rear ends, or you will be attacking them. You will be seeking out, sex and pleasure and food and drugs and alcohol. Sensual stimulation is what keeps you alive. That's the base, animal, lower vibrational, two-dimensional sociopathic understanding. Just like an animal that you can't trust. But your mind will still be there in the third dimension, but what it will do is it will keep replaying your third dimensional identity. So understand that everything that you think you are is because you keep repeating to yourself, through your 3D mind, you keep repeating to yourself whatever the script is. Coming from your karma and coming from your childhood home rearing, you were told certain things and or you reacted to reality out of your need to survive, and you created defense mechanisms and definitions of who you are. And so that just keeps repeating itself over and over and over again. You've heard this, so many times. You hear people say, Why do I keep attracting all of these destructive people? I know what I want. I want to be loved, but I keep attracting all of these narcissistic abusers. It's because, that intellectual part of you that intellectually understands you don't want to be abused, it doesn't have the power to change the programming. Your parents were abusive, you conflated their abuse with love, and even though now you're old enough to realize it's not love, it's abuse, your programming doesn't change. So whenever you see somebody, you look at them across the smoky haze of the bar, and you see them, your internal programming goes, oh my God, that's the love of my life. And it turns out to be another abusive person, because you can't escape your programming. So your mind continues to reflect, because the mind is a reflector. Just like the moon reflects the sun is the soul. That's why meditation is about reflecting on 5D soul energy. But your mind is in use whether you're meditating or not, whether you're a 5D connected person or not, whether your pineal gland is connected or not. You're still reflecting whatever the program is that you have within you. So if you have a sick body, that's because your mind keeps reflecting that, continuously projecting that onto the 3D screen. What is inherent with what I'm saying is that at any point in time, if you gain the power to change the projection, you will change. If you had the ability, I'm not saying I have this ability, I don't want it, but if I had it, I would be able to change myself into a 6 foot tall man, barely 5'9" on a good day. And yesterday I talked about that Sasquatches are actually higher dimensional beings, and they're shapeshifters. The reason why they have the ability to shapeshift isn't because they're more advanced than you. They're not. You have the same ability within your body that they do. What they have is they have the ability to change their own internal programming. So in their mind, all they have to do is focus on becoming a bear. They'll shapeshift into a bear. They can focus on their mind and focus on being a wolf. They'll shapeshift into a wolf. If they want to shapeshift into a beam of light, they do that. These are all things that people have experienced. I myself have experienced Sasquatches. I know from personal experience that these beings are not from our dimension. And that's simply because they have the ability to know how to shift their frequency from within their mind. They're not trapped in this third dimensional frequency. We as humans, 100,000, maybe more than that, 200, 500,000 years ago, we chose the path of intellect. Now, from our perspective, we say human beings rose to prominence because they're crafty and smart. It means their intellect. We became murderers, we became hunters, and we became focused on that, and that became our strategy that created a frequency. At that time, our world, what magically happened is all of the Neanderthals disappeared, and a lot of the animals started disappearing. But really what happened was that we shifted our frequency. We left that world we were in and we shifted into another one where we were the top dog. But Sasquatches, they split off from us, a couple million years ago. They had a different strategy, and their strategy was connecting to energy, connecting to life, connecting to life force energy and those frequencies, and they shifted their frequency and they live on a different Earth. They have the ability to come back into our dimension when they choose to. But this all has to do with the mind. Our mind has been so pigeonholed as a survival technique that we've created this one frequency that we understand. So our mind maintains our 3D body and our physical environment. If you're poor, it's because your mind keeps recreating it. If you're healthy, it's because your mind keeps recreating it. If you have love in your life, it's because you keep recreating that. That program in you keeps recreating and projecting onto this 3D reality. And if you can understand it, if you're able to completely change your definition of who you are, everything will change. People with multiple personalities, this has been documented as well. You can have somebody with multiple personalities, and one of their personalities will have blue eyes and have diabetes, type 1 diabetes. You take their blood and you examine their blood, you'll find out that they have type 1 diabetes. They were born with it. They switch into another personality that has brown eyes and no diabetes. They can eat, as much sugar as they want. They don't need to take insulin. You look at their blood, you find out they don't have diabetes. Their eye color has changed. This seems impossible. It's not impossible. That person is so able, again, a survival technique, it's not something I recommend, that they shift different personalities, completely different definitions of who they are. And their physical 3D projection changes to meet that expectation. So we recreate over and over and over again our programs, our expectations. The point I'm trying to make is until you awaken the pineal gland, it's very unlikely. I'm going to give you a little bit of possibility, but until you do that, it's going to be impossible for you to change your reality. You'll be stuck in the script you've been given. Emotions regulate mind focus. All right, so one of the things that's been very, very revealing and interesting to me is that 5-dimensional emotions are far more intense than 3D emotions. Far more intense. And they're not chemical reactions. Most of your emotions are chemical reactions in your body. In 5D, emotions are electromagnetic. This is why if you've been in the presence of a 5D being, if you've communicated, had telepathic or emotional interchange with them, one of the first things you notice is you'll feel this pressure on your chest. Sometimes your heart will feel like it's starting to race. You'll feel anxiety. That's because the emotions that are being transmitted to you are not from somebody's chemical brain. They're actually coming from higher, more condensed electromagnetic energy that, their emotions are far more intense than ours. Of course, they don't have any negative emotions because of the frequency at which they live. It's impossible. But the love that they have, which is the primary emotion that they have, which is the primary emotion of the multiverse that we are separated from because we're trapped in our 3D frequency. Their emotions are highly, highly electromagnetically charged signals. And so our body is not used to it. So when we receive that love, it's incredibly blissful, very powerful, but it also feels strange, and at first it might be frightening. You don't understand what's happening. So our 3-dimensional emotions are what we respond to in our body, and they regulate. The emotions regulate our existence. So, for example, think of somebody that you might know in your life who's very angry. Now, we all know that anger is not a pleasant, the whole idea of being angry is you want to stop being angry. You want to solve that. You either want to solve the problem or you want to forgive the person so you can stop being angry. Nobody truly enjoys it. It's very hard on the body. It puts you in a state of fight or flight. It completely gets rid of any feel-good chemicals. The bodily functions shut down, so you're not able to digest things. You're not able to sleep. The cells aren't able to replicate and reproduce. It creates illness and disease just by being angry. So we all know that. But I'm sure you know people who live on anger. I did for years. It was my drug for years. There's a reason why I listen to speed metal and thrash punk and all that. So why would somebody do that? And it could be any emotion. It could be sadness. It could be victim mentality. It could be anything that we perceive as being negative. But why would somebody choose to stay there? People that are like this. They are not only that way, but they stay that way. And it's obvious from us that they're choosing to stay that way. You talk to them, they'll say, no, you don't understand. This is doing this to me, and that's doing that to me, and I can't, and that's but it's all because their emotions are regulating their state of being because they want to survive. The base assumption is that they are in a hostile universe that doesn't love them. So the base understanding of higher dimensional beings, which once you've tapped into it, you see that this is true. Everybody that has a near-death experience has the same experience as well, is that the base emotion of the entire multiverse is love and connection. It's impossible to be a conscious being outside of the third dimension without being aware that you are constantly being loved and taken care of. So the reason why people choose to be upset and angry is because, first off, they don't believe that the universe loves them, and so they want to survive. And they believe that this destructive emotion that we see as being destructive, they believe that that actually keeps them alive. So their emotions, they seek out stimuli in their life that creates those emotions so they can feel like they're surviving. What they're actually doing is they're cutting themselves off from higher dimensional understanding, and it's not their fault. This is what the third dimension is. It's the illusion that you are isolated, that you are separate, and that is an illusion. It's because you're only experiencing the part of you that's being projected. Again, imagine if you were watching a movie on a two-dimensional screen in a movie theater. Now imagine if you gave the characters in that movie consciousness and awareness so that they could choose to do whatever they wanted. It wouldn't be very entertaining because imagine the evil serial killer in the movie decides that they don't like that. They become aware and I don't want to do this anymore. I'm sorry, I'm going to go turn myself into the cops, and it's that you came to watch some horror movie and somebody getting killed and all that. That's what you came to watch, and they're going to go do something different. That's what happens when you stimulate and awaken the pineal. You get to change the script. You get to do something completely different. You get to be a completely different person, a completely different character. You can decide at any moment who you are if your pineal gland is activated and you are connected to higher dimensional energies. The emotions regulate your mind focus. Your mind focus is what creates your reality. That's what I just said after that. Mind focus determines your 3D manifestation. The purpose of the mind, however, is to maintain a 5D connection. Why? Because as three-dimensional projections that have a soul within them, our ultimate purpose here in the third dimension is to have 5D consciousness in a third dimensional simulation. And the whole point of that is so that we could create whatever the hell we want and have as much fun as we want. Exactly the way you do when you play a virtual reality video game. You do it for fun. You limit your ability so that you can do things and accomplish things. If everything is easy, it's no fun. It's only when things are challenging and you overcome those challenges that you have fun. By the way, that's what releases dopamine. It's the reason why people get addicted to video games. It's why, our ancestors were addicted to hunting because it not only gave us survival, but it created the dopamine release. So this is why people play war games, because it goes back to that same thing of releasing the dopamine, which is the reward chemical, right? So we created that in our body so that when we overcame challenges, we would be rewarded with this feel-good chemical. But ideally, we were supposed to be overcoming our 3D limitations and learning how to be 5D masters of this three-dimensional reality. That was the whole point. So your mind focus determines your manifestation, and the purpose of the mind is to maintain the 5D connection. So you're not going to be able to change your character, to change your script, to change your karma if you aren't connected to 5D. When you are connected to 5D, your mind now is that focus. You're able to bring in that understanding from a higher dimension. Your 3D brain, by the way, won't understand any of it. This is why people are atheists, agnostics, and religion. It's the same part of the brain. Atheists, agnostics, and hyper-religious people are operating from the same part of the brain. And they can only see things in 2 dimensions, and they can't believe anything. If you start talking to them about 5D and all that stuff, they're going to think you're crazy, or they're going to start, or they'll call you evil if they're religious, because everything is black and white. But the mind was designed in our 3-dimensional bodies so that we could continue to channel 5D understanding, use that to create and expand our 3D awareness and our 3D experience. So when the mind doesn't have that attachment to the 5th dimension, then it can only serve to help you focus on emotions. And you get wrapped up in the emotions, and you get wrapped up in your identity and your ego. The mind will only serve that if your pineal is not activated. So if your 5D transceiver is not functioning, the mind gets caught in 3D survival loop, which drains the 3D body and creates death. Again, you can have those 2 twins, exact same identical twins with the exact same DNA. One will end up dying of some horrible inherited disease, and the other one will live to be old and be happy and healthy. You can take those same people, depending on how they choose to react to their reality, and one will look young and the other will look really old. I can remember my brother when he was in his 30s. He had literally like ridges underneath. His eyes were so wrinkled underneath. His bags were so big underneath his eyes. There was literally like, if you would be able to feel it if you were to run your finger on it. And he was only in his 30s. It's because he was so depressed and he had such tremendous self-hatred. And I can remember looking at it going, how the hell does he look like that? He looks like he's 60. He looked older than I do now when he was half my age. So this has to do with the mind getting caught in the 3D survival loop. And what happens is, when the mind, whose job is to continuously channel to you 5D energy, when that channel is not working, then the only thing it knows how to do is get in a loop. And it can't channel any new energy, any new awareness, any new consciousness, love, any of that electromagnetic energy which our body needs. It can't channel any of that. So what it ends up doing is it looks like a ghost, like a demon. This is what demons do. It looks around in its 3D world for intense energy, which is usually emotion. So that's why they get all bent out of shape. They're constantly complaining about politics. Men do this, women do that. They get all wrapped up in whatever's going on. They get angry. They replay it over and over again. They watch Fox News or MSNBC 24 hours a day, so they have something to be upset about, as an example. And so they're not being filled with energy to stay alive. They're actually squeezing out all of the life force energy they have, and then, like barfing it up and re-eating it again. It's eventually, it loses its power. And all the energy gets drained out of them. They get physically sick, they get old, and it creates death, misery. All right, so how does the Huar mantra activate the pineal 3D to 5D transformation? So bear in mind this mantra. There's other ways to the point I'm trying to make with this video is that you can stimulate the pineal gland and do all kinds of things. You can heal yourself, have experiences. You can, I'm getting ahead of myself here, but you can forcefully ingest DMT and have psychedelic experiences, but they won't result in any change. You won't be able to change yourself. You can stimulate the pineal, and you can optimize your 3D reality. That's one option. But the Huar breath is specifically designed to transform your 3D self into a 5D self. So that's what I'm trying to say about this mantra. But in order to do that, we have to understand what the pineal gland does. If you want to look at it, I'll put a link into the description, not in the chat, but in the description. Joe Dispenza talks about all of the wonderful scientific things about the pineal gland and how it accesses things. His breathing method, I think, is too forceful. Works, but it's too forceful. I'm going to get into some methods which I think are more effective and less forceful. Right, okay, so is that where we are? Okay, yeah, we're done with that one. So the Huar mantra activates the pineal 3D to 5D transformation. When activated, the pineal gland secretes DMT. DMT creates 3D to 5D portal. Right, so people who take ayahuasca, people who do LSD, people who ingest DMT. There was somebody, I gave him what for, but somebody who's been on the channel for a while, who has done this gospel before. If you're listening, this isn't anything personal. My job is to help you. If you want to have a higher experience of what you're talking about, I can help you. And this channel can help you. But when you externally ingest DMT, you forcefully and artificially create a portal to higher dimensions. This is true. This is why people who drop acid, do mushrooms, ayahuasca, and DMT, why they can come back and tell you that there's this other dimensional experience. By the way, a lot of people who habitually take DMT, a lot of them are agnostics and atheists. A lot of them don't believe that their experiences are real. They believe that it's completely made up in the mind. And that's what this person was saying, that the mind is everything. And so DMT, he was basically saying his religion was that you should take DMT. If you take DMT externally, you can have an experience. The problem is it's artificial and it's forced. But more importantly, what ends up happening is that it debilitates the pineal gland's ability to create DMT. Now, DMT is being released in the body all the time. When you sleep, when, just your body does it very minute amounts. So it's always happening. So it's not like this isn't part of the human experience. But the times when somebody who doesn't have an activated pineal gland, when the 2 times in their life when they have massive amounts of DMT being released in the body is when they're born and when they die. And the reason for that is because DMT does create a portal. So if you're coming into this world, you need that portal. If you're leaving this world, you need that portal. So when you artificially ingest it, the pineal gland shuts off all production of DMT. It says, whoa, I didn't authorize that. Shut it off. There's a problem with the system. So you end up completely dependent on an outside force. So why is that a problem? Well, first off, if you talk to people who ingest massive amounts of DMT, they will almost always talk about, and again, it'll only last for, a few minutes maximum, the experience. And what they talk about is they feel themselves going through a barrier, like forcefully being pushed through a barrier. And that's absolutely accurate. It is an unnatural, forcing yourself into another dimension. What ends up happening then is you don't have any idea what the hell you're seeing, what is going on. Sometimes you have great experiences, sometimes you have bad experiences, sometimes you have nonsensical experiences. The beings on the other side oftentimes will act with shock and surprise, and they'll go, oh my God. Now, they're higher dimensional beings, so they'll be loving and kind, and they'll be helpful, and they're happy to see you, and they know they've only got a few minutes, so they'll give you something. But what if you could keep that going? And what if it was, you weren't just breaking into somebody's house without permission, which is kind of what's happening. What if you were invited? Come on in, sit down. I only have a few minutes, so give me some strange information. What if you had minutes, hours, days, weeks to be with these beings and interact and communicate with them? This happens as a result of DMT that is released because you have trained your your pineal gland to release DMT, and you have the power to determine how much or how little, how long. Now you are part of this, and you can have a conscious experience. Again, many of these people who take it externally are agnostics and atheists. They don't believe the experiences that they have are real, which means they're still trapped in their third dimensional reality. The people who do it, ingest it, knowing that there's another world out there, they end up feeling like this world is a horrible place. In other words, they don't change their mind projection. It doesn't give you the power to change your projection. You don't change. And the reason why is at the very least because you believe that the external substance gave you the experience. And that's why you're bound to the third dimension. You won't be able to escape it. So the answer is to be able to create it yourself. Now, when you take a substance, an external substance, and you ingest it, you're getting something you didn't earn. In other words, it's like when you get a loan. When you use a credit card, you're getting money you didn't earn. What's going to happen? You're going to have to pay that back with interest. But if you earn it, it's yours. Not only is it yours, but it will grow in value, and you will be able to use it for as long as you want, forever. You won't be dependent on anything outside of you. The main goal of spiritual practice and the main awareness of the 5D is to be individuated, which means that you're not dependent on anything outside of you. So have I made myself clear? I don't have any judgments. I know that this has benefited people, and I know that other cultures do this. But if you talk to those other cultures that, for instance, use ayahuasca or other, they will say this should be done once, maybe twice in a lifetime, so that you get exposed to a reality beyond the one that you're in. And you do it in a framework where there's a shaman who can see your aura, knows whether or not this is a good idea or a bad idea for you, and use to be able to open up the portal so you're not forcefully going in and experiencing things that you haven't earned or without permission. Make sense? The good news is you can do this. I'm doing this, and anybody can do this. I'm not the only game in town. A lot of people are doing it in their own ways. But I am sharing with you the most powerful techniques I've ever found. And it's more than just being able to go there and experience these other dimensions. It's about going and directly interacting with these beings on your terms. This is what I'm offering you here. So, the Huar mantra activates a portal to create 5D transformation. So there's a difference between just going and experiencing higher dimensions, and there's another way, which is to be able to tap into 5D energies at will and use them on your time frame in your decision making to transform your physical self, your psychological programming, your external reality, and ultimately the world in which you live. This is the point of this mantra. Whoops. Where am I? Am I here? No. Am I here? Yeah, I'm here. So 5D existence requires continuous projection between 5D and 3D by the pineal secreted DMT in the brain. Let me read that again. 5D existence requires continuous projection between 5D and 3D by pineal secreted DMT in the brain. So I was trying to put a big concept into one sentence. That's why it's awkward. What I'm trying to say is that in the fifth dimension, that we won't have to worry about activating the pineal, turning it on, turning it off. It will be constantly going. And the experience of that will be that we will be continuously channeling energy from the quantum field. Remember, nothing truly exists in the quantum field, it's all possibility. And the understanding that what we're living in is just a possibility that's been projected onto a three-dimensional screen. It's not real in the sense that it's not, it would disappear if we stopped projecting it. So when we get to 5D, we're going to understand that. That'll be a conscious awareness. We'll be constantly surrendered to the flow of higher dimensional energies being projected onto our 5D screen, whatever that's going to be. I'm using the word 5D. I don't know if it'll be the fifth dimension or just a higher octave of the third dimension. I don't know that yet. But in order to be in that state, there won't be any separation where there is now. Third dimension, it takes effort. You have to really put work into it to become conscious and flow with that energy. In fact, it's not possible for us to do it 24/7. We just don't have the capability. If that became the reality, we would shift body, everything would completely shift. We wouldn't be here any longer. That's what happens with people who become immortals, like the Babajis of the world or the Taoist masters who just phase out of existence. This is what the Jesus myth is based on, where Jesus died, resurrected, and could walk through walls. That is something that happens to a third dimensional person who's able to flip on that pineal gland continuous flowing of 5D energy into 3D. Now you have the ability, this third dimensional reality has no real power over you. So 5D existence requires continuous projection between 5D and 3D by pineal secreted DMT in the brain. So I'm focusing a lot on DMT because it is the thing that, it's the grease that makes everything flow for us in this experience. This cannot happen if your pineal isn't activated. And again, if you try and activate it, well, actually you're not activating it. That's another thing I didn't talk about. When the pineal is activated, it's a transceiver. The DMT is actually the symptom, the effect of the pineal activating. So the pineal is now the transceiver. If you just ingest DMT, the pineal is not being activated, which means, again, you're not transceiving, you're not receiving and projecting, you're just thrust into another dimension for a very short period of time and then you fade out of it. You don't really have any control. It doesn't really have any life-changing capabilities unless, like it's originally meant, it shocks you out of your delusion and then you live your life differently. Then you begin meditating, you begin tapping into this and you learn how to tap into that on your own. Then you become a master of this plane of existence and you begin to create your own body, a new reality, a new self. Again, we can focus this on healing. The reason why I'm thinking about this is because I injured myself just a couple of days ago and I was very worried. It felt like a pretty severe injury and I was very worried. And my main worry was that I can't tolerate the thought of not surfing for long periods of time. So I said, you know what? I'm gonna walk my walk, and I said I'm gonna spend as much time as I can over the next few days, and I'm gonna tap into this and I'm gonna heal myself of this. And it's only day 2 and I'm already, it's just unbelievable what this can do. And so you can do it with a physical injury. Imagine what you can do with physical illness, emotional, psychological illness. So the 5D existence requires continuous projection between 5D and 3D by pineal secreted DMT in the brain. The Huar mantra interrupts 3D feedback. So what most people do, which creates illness, old age, poverty, misery, all of that, what ends up happening is people get caught up in the 3D feedback loop, which I've already explained to you. When you're not connected to higher dimensional understandings, higher dimensional energies, the only way that the mind can function is by replaying old memories, replaying the emotions from old memories. And remember, in the 3D, every experience is actually a memory of what just happened. So you're not able. That's why we can only see into the past, because we're slaves to the 3D projection. We can only see what has happened and then have a reaction to it. So the third dimensional mind just keeps replaying this over and over again, and we think that we're actually creating our reality. We try to plan things out. To give you an example, whenever I talk to people about how to create their perfect reality or how to find their perfect soul desire career, which if you're interested, if you want that service, go to career.thunderwizard.com. You can get the video, or you can scroll to the bottom and get a session with me. I've always been able to help people find out exactly what their soul desire is. I don't figure it out, you tell me, but I'm able to explain to you what it is you truly want. Whether you do it or not is up to you. But what ends up happening most of the time, once people become aware of what it is that they truly want, they immediately go into a mode where they try and talk themselves out of it. And one of the things they'll say is, I can't afford to do that. I don't have the money. I have to stay in my crappy job so I have enough money to go do that thing. And I say, that's not how it works. And how it works is, once you know what it is you truly want, you then have to go do it. The money will come. If you take the actions that stimulates higher dimensional energies to flow through you, you create a different reality, and all of a sudden you have the money you didn't have. Waiting for the money to come to you is watching the past, expecting something new to come from the past. And it never works. People who say, I'm going to stay in this job and save money, almost never works. More than often what ends up happening 10 years, 20 years later, they're still in that crappy job and they never saved enough money to go do that thing they wanted to do. You have to break out, take action, even when you don't have the resources and even when you don't feel like the resources are going to come to you. When you take action, now you're in the quantum field, and now you're programming the quantum field to give you what you need. When you live in 5D connection, then you understand that your reality is completely your creation. You never become dependent on replaying the past in order to feel justified or empowered. You never fall into that again. I shouldn't say never. I mean, the 3D is very resilient, and it will keep trying to pull you back. So it does take a lot of work to continue to make effort. But this is why. This is one of these things. This mantra is a gift. I'm just now beginning to understand this. This is a gift that creates a portal to not just higher dimensions, but the actual fifth dimension. And it transforms you as you do it. Okay, where am I? Am I here? No, I'm here. All right, so the Huar mantra interrupts the 3D feedback loop. The 3D matrix disintegrates when there is no mind-body feedback loop. So this mind-body feedback loop, here's how it works with me. You're different. Maybe yours doesn't work this way. Except for this morning, because I did a heck of a lot of meditation and I asked for my higher dimensional friends to come and help me because I was in physical and emotional pain over my injury. And but for the average person, well, for me, what happens to me when I'm in my normal 3D self is I'll wake up in the morning and the first thing that'll hit me is a bunch of negative thoughts. I just get bombarded with these negative thoughts, fears, anxieties about who knows what, just fear of the unknown, fear that something bad is going to happen, the rug's going to get pulled out from underneath me. Then my brain starts looking for people to fight with, and I'll bring up people from my past and I'll start arguing with them in my head. If there's something happened, in my recent reality, I'll replay that old stuff, and then I become aware. I stop myself and I go, does any of this trauma or tension have anything to do with the actual 3D reality around me? And almost always no. In fact, 99.9% of the time, there's literally nothing going on in my external reality at the moment that is causing any of this. And so I go, oh, this is just me playing the old feedback loop. And so I start focusing on the things that make me happy. I focus on what I want to create. I focus on all of that. I might even meditate or, do the huar breath so that I can tap into that, release those feel-good chemicals and tap into creating my reality instead of reacting to it. So the 3D matrix, when you're the 3D matrix disintegrates when there is no 3D mind-body feedback loop. So this huar mantra supercharges the pineal gland so that you secrete DMT and you become disconnected from the 3D feedback loop, because it's a feedback loop. You have a negative experience which creates within you a programming. That's what happens when I wake up in the morning. My programming kicks in. It creates a negative feeling, which then I respond to. If I respond to that by getting into, that person did this, and I really hate that, and I start going back and forth. I'm afraid of this, and what happens if this happens? What happens if that happens? Then now my body will create an emotion. And that emotion will then tell my body to create all of these fight or flight survival chemicals. What does that do? It creates more negative feelings, which creates, just this feedback loop. Most people think this is living. This is life for most 3D people. They don't know anything other than this. You go off and you work your ass off at your job, you push yourself, you work 16 hours, or you go and smoke weed all day, or you go and play video games or watch porn all day. It's coming from that same feedback loop. You're trying to escape the feeling or reinforce it. So when that 3D feedback loop disintegrates, it disintegrates because you are no longer getting your information and reacting to this information. And that's only possible when you go to higher dimensions. Now, higher dimensions are run by positive feelings, love, joy, peace. So the easiest thing to do is to just focus on what gives you gratitude. That's the easiest place to start, because you can't be in a state of gratitude and in a state of self-devaluation, anger, fear, anxiety. You can't be anxious and grateful at the same time. You have to pick a lane. So you don't feel grateful, but you focus on things you're grateful for. You expand into those, and that creates the feel-good chemicals, which gets you out of that feedback loop. That's the first place to start. So this huar mantra completely disintegrates that connection, because the whole point of the huar mantra is to transform the 3D into 5D. So this mantra, in and of itself, has the ability to destroy your connection to the 3D matrix. That's how powerful it is. I didn't make this up. It was given to me. It was given to me by a higher dimensional being who telepathically taught me and literally showed me how to make the sounds. That sound that you hear in the background of me doing that, whatever that is, that throat thing that you hear guys do like Tibet or whatever. I don't know how to do that. So that isn't coming because I've trained. That's what that sound does to my body and my throat. So I'm not expecting you to be able to copy that. But that's what happened. As a result of this being teaching me how to do that, I created that resonance. That's how powerful this is. It's a completely transformative idea. So when we get to the meditation, I'm going to show you a visualization that you'll be able to use, which will change things. I mean, there's just no way not to do this without having everything change. So the who means the 3D, which, as I said before, normal 3D, there's nothing wrong with it. It's a very beautiful experience as long as you're tapped in, as long as you're connected to your soul. This is a really great, fun place to be. But it's got its limitations, and when you get trapped in the limitations, then it becomes a hell. The who sound is connecting to the positive, wonderful, beautiful aspects of Earth. And then the R sound is the fifth dimension. So this is taking all of the good things of Earth and shifting it up to 5D. Somebody asked me a question in the last video and I gave him kind of a hard time. He knows who he is. His question was, will I go to 5D after I die? And whenever somebody talks about dying, I know something's wrong. Because the whole thing I've been teaching you is that we're going to physically, bodily shift to 5D. I want to teach you how to do that. Why would you focus on that? And as it came out, I said, you got to tell me why. And he did. And he said that the reason why he asked that question, I am assuming it's a he, I'm not sure. The reason why he asked that question was because he didn't want to physically go. He wanted to stay here. And then after he died, he wanted to go. Now, there's a whole fucking kettle of fish, can of worms that if I had him sitting down, I would ask him all kinds of questions. I already know there's some fear-based, codependent attachment. I can't judge him. Nobody talks like that unless something like that's going on. But I understand the fear because we know what this 3D is. I like 3D Earth. I'm not doing this because I'm one of these people that wants to escape the matrix. As you know, if you go back into my videos, if you go back 3 years, I'm hammering away at the people who want to escape the matrix. Because it's the escapism and I believe that, and I believed then, we create the perfect world right here if we want it. If you escape because you can't tolerate your 3D reality, then wherever you go, you're going to bring that nonsense with you and you'll create that garbage wherever else you go. You find an exit to the matrix. If you think it's really at the North Pole, you'll go through that matrix, you'll go to a perfectly wonderful world and you'll bring all of your garbage with you and you'll create the same garbage there. So I'm not teaching this because this is something that comes out of me. I had to be convinced. I had to have higher dimensional beings convince me over a period of time that there's going to be a 5D shift, that this 3D is going away, and that we will shift up. And so there's still a part of me that's like, man, there's a lot of stuff here that I like. But when you look at this mantra, the who part is we're going to bring all of that good stuff with us. I'm not going to throw the whole thing out. We're going to take the parts of it that are good and we're going to transform that into a higher octave. So the fear of, I don't want to do this because I'm afraid of dying and, maybe after I die I'll go. That is a misunderstanding of what's happening here. But it means you're going to have to die to yourself. And I think that's what really that person was afraid of. That the symbol of staying in the 3D earth means the inability to psychologically die to your lower vibrational attachments. And I understand that fear. I share that same feeling. I'm committed to doing the change. Absolutely committed. So I keep telling my higher dimensional friends this. I say I want to learn no matter what the cost is to my 3D psyche. I'm prepared for that. I don't need it. I'm happy if that doesn't come, but If I have to face some difficult things, I will do whatever I have to do to experience the most joy I can, which is really the only thing that matters to me. So this will raise your 3D matter to 5D spirit. All right, so let's take a look at this. Is this it? Oh, yeah. So, by the way, I'm letting you know, as I said earlier, I am going to do a guided version of this meditation that I'm going to share with you. I'm going to give you a guided meditation, but that will be at the 90-day challenge. You can go there and subscribe there. I will upload that soon. That is coming. But before I finish today, I'll tell you exactly what to do, and if you want to try it, it'll still work. You know, it's completely up to you how you want to do it. We already talked about that. All right, so here are the preparation techniques, the Maoshan preparation techniques to activate pineal gland and supercharge Huar mantra. So let me be clear. I'm not creating some kind of religious dogma. There's really no one way to do any of this. Okay? I just want to be clear about that. But I also know now, after doing this for over 30 years, doing the Maoshan practices for over 30 years, I know that the Maoshan practices are downloaded, channeled information from these higher dimensional beings. In fact, the same being that taught me how to do the Huar breath, I'm convinced is one of the masters of the Maoshan tradition, and that lineage of beings is what created the Maoshan. Point being, doing these Maoshan practices are going to immensely enhance your ability to open up the pineal gland and create this portal. Remember, I said that there are people out there that are, like Dr. Joe Dispenza, they're physically manipulating the body to stimulate the pineal. It works, but as I said, it's very, this is my opinion, nobody needs to follow it, but I find that to be, although it's a method that works, I think it's forced. It's too forceful. So the idea is that when there are certain things you do, by the way, breath will do this, just breath alone will do this. As well as, it turns out, the act of lovemaking does this as well. You will stimulate the cerebrospinal fluid to go up into the pineal gland, and when that energy moves up and down in the pineal gland, what ends up happening is that the crystals in the pineal gland get activated and they create an electromagnetic field. And so when that electromagnetic field is created, the pineal gland now has that zero state where it can create a portal, and you can communicate to higher dimensional energies. So these Maoshan practices aren't just human beings, physically manipulating their body to make that happen. These are practices that higher dimensional beings, if you go to them and you say, listen, I want you to give me a shortcut to creating a portal to 5D and to stimulating the pineal, and they come back with these very simple fluid movements. If you follow their instructions, you will actually create not just a portal in your pineal, you'll create a portal all the way around you. And you will also stimulate the pineal. All of these movements do that. Just trust me on that. And it's much faster, more powerful than just physically trying to manipulate the body into making it happen. So these are the Maoshan preparation techniques to activate pineal gland and supercharge the Huar mantra. First thing to do is you're going to have far more success if you understand the assumptions behind what the reality is. I can tell you what that is, but it works if you personally experience it by rewiring your brain and rewiring your psyche. So for that, we do the 12 steps to 5D, which disconnects the mind from the 3D attachment loop. 12 steps to 5D are the most powerful way to do that. That's why until the 12 steps were created, people couldn't quit drinking. They couldn't quit doing drugs. They would die. They'd be put in hospitals and locked up for the rest of their life because people just gave up on them. And now, you know, that's been over 100 years. But trust me, 100 years ago, if somebody said he's a diehard alcoholic, it meant he's worthless. We're just going to tie him up and put him in prison for the rest of his life. Put him in a straitjacket, and they would go crazy. They'd completely lose their mind. So without getting too much into that, so the point of the 12 steps, and mine is specifically focused on getting rid of the addiction to the 5D survival loop. The 12 steps rewires the brain, rewires the psyche, so that you start off from experience of knowing that the universe loves you, that the universe is connected to you. It's not just an idea. It's not like going to church and just having faith and believing in Jesus. If you believe in Jesus, you'll be saved. No, you will create an actual experience where you know firsthand that the universe has your back. And it also completely destroys the feedback loop that your brain creates attached to the survival mechanisms. Watch the videos on the 12 steps to 5D to know what I'm talking about. By the way, there's more of those videos coming as well. So the 12 steps to 5D disconnects mind from 3D attachment. Then do the Hool breath, which prepares higher 3D awareness. Remember, the Hool breath is the base. It was the first mantra that I was given by higher dimensional beings, even though I didn't know that's who it was from. I just was in meditation, and because I'd been experimenting with all these different traditions you weren't supposed to mix, because I wanted to find even better than what was available, so I was mixing different traditions, and I suffered some problems from that. I was in a lot of energetic disharmony, and I just, in meditation, I said, if there's anybody out there, just give me a one syllable, one breath mantra. And what came to me was the Hool breath, which I've been teaching for 15 years now, 20 years now. It's the base practice of just being in the highest vibration of this three-dimensional earth. So we start with that. Hool breath prepares higher 3D awareness. Then we go to Maoshan Qigong, which activates the spinal fluid pump, as well as stimulating the life force energy, or the Qi, as well as stimulating the Kundalini, which is 5D consciousness, into the spinal column, as well as the completely unknown Maoshan practices, which open up the electromagnetic energy of the heart, called the heart mind, but it's actually lightning power, the feminine fire of the lightning power that's released. So you get Qi plus Kundalini plus this power. That power is the secret power that made the Maoshan so frightening to all other Taoist practitioners, and made so many of the folk magicians pretend to be Maoshan. The vast majority of people who call themselves Maoshan are folk magicians. They've stolen the Maoshan name. But this is what this Maoshan practice will do. And just by doing them, it activates the spinal fluid pump, which we talked about before, which activates the pineal. It's far more powerful than anything I've ever done, and I've spent 30 years trying everything. This is the most powerful. So after the spinal fluid activates the pineal crystals and DMT is now released, the Hua mantra supercharges bodily energy for transformation. When properly activated, 3D human mind enters 5D quantum field and projects anything onto the 3D matrix. Anything. This is why people are... what happened here? Oh, okay, I'm back. My picture froze. So when that happens, it means that what I'm saying is important. So I got to go back and remind myself what I was talking about. So when properly activated, 3D human mind enters 5D quantum field and projects anything onto the 3D matrix. This is why people are healing themselves of blindness, healing themselves of, anything that shouldn't be healed. People are now beginning to learn how to do this. It's happening all over the place, but it's, the ones I'm aware of are, of course, I've been healing myself of things for 20, 30 years, but Joe Dispenza is having incredible results with people, healing themselves of things that shouldn't be healed, impossible to heal. And it's because he understands. He understands that this is a projection, that this isn't concrete. This is created from higher dimensional quantum field. Where quantum field is anything exists. Anything and everything. This is why Sasquatches have the ability to shapeshift into trees, animals. This is why. Is because they understand that this is merely a projection. So they can go to the quantum field and think of whatever they want because they're not attached to the 3D understanding, and they can create anything in their body. So that, if you go back to people healing themselves of cancer, healing themselves of blindness, of strokes, of what Joe Dispenza did, which was he completely fused, and after destroying his back, like his back was in pieces, he used his mind to recreate his spine all over again. And so we can do anything. We can create and project onto this three-dimensional screen anything we want. But in order for that to happen, you have to be disconnected from your 3D matrix loop. And that's where the 12 steps comes in and all the rest of that stuff. That's why not everybody can just get this intellectual idea and do it. You actually have to change who you are. And that can't be done without meditation and spiritual practice. The Maoshan is the fastest way I know of to do that. So now I'm going to talk you through the steps of this advanced mantra meditation. So you begin with the Maoshan 5-element forms. If you don't know what those are, go here to 923.thunderwizard.com. You will get access to that. It is the most powerful energetic practice I have ever experienced. I don't think there's anything that even comes close. They create portals. These forms create portals where beings can emerge and appear. I'm not even going to go into all the stories I've experienced, I've heard about, but I'm hearing it from people who are doing it as well. There's nothing that comes close to it. So if you have access to those, you can do the Maoshan 5-element forms. Do that for 5 to 30 minutes. If you don't have access to that, then you can do the Heaven-Earth Qigong meditation. Do 1 to 3 rounds. If you don't know what that is, you can go to the 90-day challenge. I might even have it on the free YouTube channel, to be honest, I don't know. You can look in the Qigong folder and if you see it there. So the Heaven to Earth meditation is a very good one. Anyway, I won't go further than that. So you can do 1 to 3 rounds of that. If you're doing the 5 elements, you don't need to do the Heaven and Earth Qigong meditation, but you can if you want. The Hool breath is another option for 11 to 30 minutes. So the Hool breath is very easy. Again, these times are not set in stone. If you do it for 11 minutes, if you go up to 30 minutes, trust me, you're going to be in a completely different space. You're going to be in a completely different mindset. You won't be attached to your 3D nonsense. Now, to do the Huar mantra meditation, this is what I'm suggesting. In the Hool breath posture, you don't know what that is? Go look it up. All you have to do is type in Hool breath, H-U-U-L breath, into YouTube, and you'll find me telling you exactly how to do it. In the Hool breath posture, begin the silent Huar breath, which means you do the exact same thing of Hool. Don't worry about the Hool visualization, but in terms of how to do the breath, do the same thing, but instead of Hool, you're doing Huar. So you begin the silent Huar breath. Here's the technique. You inhale and you imagine bringing 5D energy down into your heart. You exhale, silently chant Huar. On the Hu sound, you send energy directly into earth. On the R sound, You allow the energy to come up out of the earth and out the crown. Got that? So you inhale, you can't see, but I'm in the posture. Bringing energy down. Exhale, energy going down your feet out into the earth. And then as you finish that, the energy comes up and out the crown, and your whole aura expands. There's another Qigong movement I haven't uploaded yet, which I'll upload. You can do a Huar Qigong posture as well. Okay, so you got me there. I'll read it again now. It should be pretty clear. Whoops. Inhale, bringing 5D energy down into the heart. Exhale, chant Huar silently. On the Hu sound, send energy directly into the earth. On the R sound, send energy up and out the crown. Now, here is a visualization that came to me, and I had an absolutely blissful, like just huge DMT experience when I did this. Imagine on the R sound, as the energy is coming up and out, that you literally unzip your 3D body. Imagine that the identity that you have, if you're trying to heal a physical ailment, imagine it's just like a suit that you're wearing, a skin that you're wearing. The disease, the dysfunction, the sadness, the poverty, the loneliness, whatever it is, that's the suit that you're wearing. Because remember, everything is a projection onto the 3D. It's an identity. You choose to believe it, and then you project it, and then you experience it. So you're wearing it. So when you get to the R sound and the energy's coming up out of the top of your head, imagine that this is unzipping, and your old self is going to peel off, and your new self is going to then shoot up towards the sky. So imagine unzipping 3D body, and 5D body flies up into the 5D realm. All right, so you inhale, bring 5D energy down into the heart. Exhale, chant Huar silently. On the Hu sound, send energy into the earth. On the R sound, allow the energy to move up and out the crown, and then unzip the 3D suit that you're wearing and allow the 5D core self to fly up into the 5D realm. That visualization in and of itself should take care of everything. So if you're trying to get over an illness, you don't have to think about that. If you're trying to get over your poverty, you're trying to get over your unhappiness, you're trying to get rid of an addiction, it doesn't matter, because those are all part of the suit that you're wearing that you're trapped inside of. Having said that, if you want to focus on something specific, you can imagine that dropping away as you unzip the suit. Again, this isn't the only way to do things. There's plenty of ways to do this. This is what has been working for me. And again, I'm actively doing it and healing myself of a physical injury that a couple of days ago I was sure was a pretty big deal. And now it doesn't feel like anything. There isn't any proof in that, but certainly the meditation hasn't hurt. I've also been doing interdimensional meditation as often as I can. And of course, getting a lot of rest and taking care of myself. All right, so there's that. I'm open to questions. Last time I took questions, all I had, it was in the middle of the night, and they were just trolls. I couldn't believe how, the trolls showed up. So let's see. So Gospel Adept. Here's my question. Normally to people, there was a time I stopped taking questions. And the reason I stopped taking questions is because the people who are asking questions are people who weren't subscribed to the 90-day challenge. So for a while, the only people I was talking to were people who were doing the 90-day challenge, had been reading my books and been doing the practices, because they asked questions I liked responding to. If somebody hasn't done the work, you haven't read my books, you haven't done the practices, you're not subscribed to the 90-day challenge, it's very likely the questions you're going to ask are going to come from total misunderstanding. That question would be solved by doing the work. And so I ended up not taking questions. So I'm going to try. But bear in mind, you might not like my answer. So if you're thinking about asking a question and you're not subscribed to the 90-day challenge, you haven't done the practices, my suggestion is do the practices and your question will get answered. Yeah. So anyway, let's see. Gospel Adapt, I'm assuming you're not subscribed, right? Let's see. Question. How do I know if something is possible, specifically if it's supernatural? You haven't asked me what it is. It's not related to powers like omnikinesis or omnipotent, though. You have to ask me what it is, because this is, again, I can tell you're new to the channel. You're asking me an intellectual question. You're not attaching your emotions to it, which means if you ask me, can I do this? And the reason why I want to do this is because of this, then I can help you. But asking me this arbitrary question in a general way isn't helping you. If I answer the question, whether I say yes or I say no, I haven't helped you. Because you're not telling us what it is, the emotion is, what it is you want to fix. So if you have the balls to ask me, is it possible for me to do this, travel back in time and save my loved one from dying, for example? If you can ask me that question, I will be able to answer whether or not you can do it. But this general question means nothing. And me answering it isn't helpful to you. All right, what else? Dabbler Deluxe question. Is there a particular focus we should place while doing huar, like in the head or moving up the spine, etc.? Well, you asked that probably before I told you, right? This is, again, I tell people don't type your questions out until I'm done with the lecture. I answered your question, I'm pretty sure. Yeah, then you say, ignore that. I asked before you explained. This is why you should listen to your teachers. You know, I've said this a bunch of times. Don't ask questions until after I've done the lecture. Don't bother asking questions if you haven't done the work. Anyway, so that's, I did answer your question. I'm happy to hear that. Cody Hill question. What happened to people putting question in all caps? I used to make that clear. How did people forget how to do that? This is Cody Hill. Yeah, that's what it says right there, yeah. Would you ever consider unblocking? Oh, I remember you. So give me a second. So I want to make sure that I don't say anything I regret. So you're asking if I should unblock you from your Patreon page. The question I have to consider is what is most helpful for you. So I'll tell you why I blocked you. You know what you did, right? You remember what you did. The mindset that I wanted you to carry with you, which I'm not seeing that you have, is that I have given away so much free practices that if anybody took the time to master any of them, the Hool breath, for example, if somebody said with the intention, I'm going to take the Hool breath and I'm going to spend my life mastering that, and I am going to achieve my enlightenment and nothing will stop me, they would achieve it. I've given away so much stuff for free. And I don't, you know, I'm happy to help people, but I help people who take my advice, who follow my directions. You know what happened. Not only did you not follow my directions, you did more than that. So by denying your, whatever the psychological projection you had onto me, daddy issues or who knows, whatever it was, I don't care, I don't know. We all have them, I have them. By denying you the ability to project onto me, you were left with the tools. And I my thought was, this person won't learn from me as long as I keep co-signing whatever their projection is onto me. So I can't help them. But they have access to the tools, and knowing the lesson I wanted you to give, and you're not the first person that I've stopped working with. The lesson I wanted you to go home with was, you have to appreciate what's been given, and if you appreciate it and commit to it, you'll make it work. So I wanted you to feel like you had to figure it out for yourself, and then to go back and follow the directions specifically. And I know that I gave you specific directions on all kinds of things in your life. So I've just given you a practice that would create healing. So anyway, I don't know, I have to think about it, but you have the technology to heal yourself. Doing the 12 steps to 5D, I don't know if you qualify for a 12-step program like Alcoholics Anonymous, or I don't remember. I don't know if you qualify for Alcoholics Anonymous or Narcotics Anonymous or something else. But working the 12 steps with a sponsor would be the first thing that I would, even if you were to pay me for my time, here's the first thing I would tell you for free. Go work the 12 steps with a sponsor. Find a 12-step program you qualify and go do it. Work all 12 steps and then sponsor somebody else in the 12 steps. That's the first thing I would tell you. Second thing I would tell you is to do the whole breath for at least an hour a day, every day. Do the whole breath for an hour a day, every day. If you did those two things as though your life depended on it, you would be healed. You wouldn't even be asking about physical healing. Your physical healing is a result of your self-focused self-devaluation. I don't know exactly what it is, but I know that that's what physical illness is. Whatever. So there you go. That's what I would have told you. I've now told that to you for free. If you come back to me, having worked all 12 steps with a sponsor, whether it's AA, NA, CODA, Adult Children of Alcoholics, Al-Anon, Gamblers Anonymous, I don't care. Pick one of those 12-step groups. Get a sponsor, work all 12 steps, meaning you have to follow your sponsor's instructions to the letter. If your sponsor tells you got to call him every day, you call him every day. If he says you got to text him every day, you text him every day. If he tells you that you have to go down to Skid Row and volunteer at the food kitchen, you go down to Skid Row and you volunteer on the food kitchen line. If he tells you that you have to do something nice for somebody every day and not let them know who did it, you do it. If you're able to do that and work all 12 steps and then sponsor somebody else all the way through the 12 steps, if you're able to do that and you can come back and convince me that you've done that, I will unblock you from Patreon. Now I got to tell you this. That is the best, most powerful thing I've just given you. Nobody else, everybody else listening to me isn't going to do it. And they're not going to get the results of it. If you do that, you'll never have another problem for the rest of your life. And you won't even need to talk to me. But you have to follow directions. That is the karmic lesson I wanted you to experience. Because of what happened between us and because of what you did, I didn't get personally offended. I didn't get personally hurt. None of that. My thought was, how can I best help this guy? So you've got to overcome that karma. That's how you're going to overcome it. And then trust me, when you get to the end of that, you've done what I just told you to do, and you follow my directions to the letter, I guarantee you will be so empowered and awakened and enlightened, you won't ever complain about being sick ever again. All right, so I'm not saying no. You want to work with me? That's what you're going to have to do, and you're going to have to convince me of it. And by the way, I'll know. Especially if I start talking to you, I'm going to know within probably 30 seconds whether you've done it or not. All right, let's see what else. Jonathan Reese, question in all caps helps. What does seeing repeating numbers mean? Nothing. Let's see. I'll see what my phone. So my phone says 241. It's going to say that twice a day, every day. It's going to say 111. It's going to say 222. It's going to say 1212. You know, it's going to happen twice a day. So it doesn't mean anything. If you want it to mean something, great. If you see 1111 on your phone and you think, oh my God, the universe is telling me I'm going to achieve enlightenment, and that provokes you to do, let's say what I just said, you're going to do the whole breath for an hour a day, every day until you achieve enlightenment, then that 1111 will have meaning. But think about it. Most people talk about 11, oh, you've written this down here, 1111, 444. So a lot of people talk about this, and the reason why it means something to them is because they want to believe that angels are talking to them. Well, I got news for you. They're talking to you all the time. You don't need repeating numbers. It's not like the only time God is talking to you is when you see a repeating number. I mean, there are hundreds, if not hundreds of thousands, if not millions of light beings literally phased right out of your 3D perception that are right there, that would talk to you right now if you listen to them. So the idea that you're special because you're seeing 1111 or 444, I mean, that's like, you're being surrounded, like gold coins, piles of gold coins are falling around you, and you found a nickel, and you go, oh my God, look at the nickel. It's just, I got nothing against it. It's just what ends up happening is people get caught up in that, and what's behind it is that the belief that you don't have value. My God, an angel talked to me. Yeah, they talk to you all the time. I'm special now. God talked to me. No, you were special long before God talked to you. So it doesn't mean anything unless you give it some meaning. But if you want to go beyond that, I mean, if that's the best that the universe can do to communicate to you is give you 1111, if that's the best it can do, that's pretty pathetic. I'm not thrilled by a universe that's the best it can do to get my attention. So, Johan, I'm assuming you're new to my channel. So again, like I said, if you haven't done the work, you take your chances by asking me questions. So my suggestion to you is to do the things that I recommend to people who are new. Subscribe, like, and comment. Go to the playlist section. Click on the following playlist: Mao Shan Qigong, Interdimensional Meditation, 12 Steps to 5D. Do at least one thing from at least one of those playlists every day. Subscribe to the Warrior 90-Day Lightning Qigong at the website thunderwizard.com. You can unsubscribe whenever you want. Do the practices that I teach you, and seeing 1111 will be the least amazing thing that could possibly happen to you, because you will have direct access to the quantum field. You will have direct access to beings of light who will tell you far more amazing things than little tricks with numbers. Okay? So I hope you heard that in the way that I meant it, which is to try and help you. Cats and Me question. Is my head buzzing a good sign I'm doing the Hua breath mantra correctly? That is a sign. Yep, that's what happens to me. So very likely, yes. I wouldn't focus just on that, but yeah. Remember, what's the point of this? There's 3 things that we use to determine whether or not we are connected to our soul. Very simple things. Healthier, happier, more prosperous. If you're not healthier, happier, and more prosperous, then it doesn't matter, just to get the example that's just been said, it doesn't matter how many times you see 1111 if you're in physical pain and living in a box on the street, unless that stimulates you to go take action to make your life better. So if you're healthier, happier, and more prosperous than you were, that's what you want. If your head buzzes, great. I mean, my crown chakra is buzzing. I get all kinds of physical sensations. They're great signs, and I accept every one of them as a sign that I'm doing something right, but that's not the focus. I want my life to get better. For instance, I've got this injury, I'm going to heal. The point of that is to heal that so that I can go surfing again. Once that happens, I'm going to declare victory. Whatever feelings I have until then are great, and I will use that to keep my mind open and keep focusing and taking action. But that's really all that you can do with that. Lots of times those symptoms will go away. The buzzing of the head, it just means, you're getting more energy than your body's used to. But what if your energy level rises up? Then you won't feel anything. So short answer, yes, that's a good sign. So Cancerian girl, if you want to ask a question, you see how people are writing the word question. I hope they do it in all caps. People just tend to forget, so I'm giving up. Then you can ask your question. A question, I haven't read your question yet, but a question is, you ask me something that you don't know the answer to that you think I might know the answer to. If it doesn't fit that, it's not a question. So let's see if this is a question. So it's not sounding like a question right off the bat. You say, can I ask, is there an effect in ascending to 5D when you are vaccinated? Oh, yes, it is a question. Vaccination doesn't have anything to do with anything. I mean, I know there are people out there saying that in fact, I wish you hadn't written that, because now the fact that I've used that word, it's going to come up in YouTube. People get their sites canceled simply because of that word. And now I can't go back and take it away. But there's a belief out there that people who get they're somehow not spiritual enough, and that's nonsense. It's complete nonsense. That shouldn't even be part of it. And I wish I could tell you more about it, but I can't because of current narrative cycles. But that doesn't have to be part of anything. Okay? If you go after 5D, you will be healthy, happy, and prosperous, period, end of story. Whether or not ancient history, you did something, that somebody recommended, and whether or not you think that's a good idea, that is meaningless. So please don't make that part of anything. Again, I wish I could say more, but I can't. Everybody gets to go. The only requirement to going to 5D is that you want to go and you're willing to do the work to get there. We've all done things that we like, and we all have done things we regret. And all of those things are in the past, and whatever is in the past is meaningless. Okay. All right. Very good. I hope I answered your question. That's it. I don't see any more questions. Thank you all for showing up. So again, thunderwizard.com, subscribe, and if you want to work with me personally, you can subscribe as an apprentice, and again, as long as you're respectful and you follow directions, I guarantee you I'll be able to help you. If you subscribe just at the regular Warrior 90-Day Lightning Qigong, if you follow the instructions, you simply press play and do what I have there on video. If you just do that, I guarantee you a shift, and you can unsubscribe whenever you want. If you want the most powerful practices, which I already talked about, you can go here to 923.thunderwizard.com. You're going to get a $5,000 worth package. I won't even get into it for almost nothing, but you'll get access to the Maoshan 5-element forms. If you have a question for me and you want me to make a video about it, go here to askmike.thunderwizard.com. If you have the question, other people have the question. By me making a video of your question, you're actually helping other people, because I can't figure out everybody's questions. But if you have it, more than likely somebody else has that same question, so you'll be helping them. If you want to get my books, which I recommend, you go to michaelwilliamdenny.com, unless you're outside of the US, and there will be a link at the top. You click that, and that'll take you to Amazon Kindle or Audible, and you should see my books there. The 3 books I recommend are Extraterrestrials Are Coming to Earth, and Interdimensional Revolution, and The Shamanic Secret Commandment to a Perfect Life. Those 3 books are the most important that I have. There's a bunch of others. If you want to understand why religion doesn't work, you can get Odin Says Jesus Was a Coward. There's a book on happiness in there, which is really great. There's a bunch of other books having to do with shamanism and other stuff which you can check out. But that's it. If you want to see everything that's available, go to courses.thunderwizard.com. But you can get all those at the 923. That's it. Let's see. Anything else? Somebody say anything? Nope, that's it. Johan, remember what I said? If you've been watching my channel, you're not going to ask questions that I've already answered. And you ask this, why is it 3D to 5D? Do we skip the fourth? So if you've been watching my channel, you would know that the fourth dimension is time. So we are already in the fourth dimension. We live in a three-dimensional box, and the fourth dimension is traveling through it. And so there's only one place to go, which is the fifth. So there you go. Spend some time on my channel, watch the videos, binge watch it, go to, you can go to playlists like Aliens, the Solar Flash, and you can learn all of that. I recommend that you do that before you ask a question, although I do appreciate the questions. Okay, that's it. I'm all done. I appreciate everybody being here. Thank you so much. I love you all. If I've done or said anything that's been hurtful or offensive, know that the goal of anything and everything I do is always to be as helpful as I possibly can. And I love you so much, I'm willing for you to be upset with me, but I'm far more interested in your health and in your empowerment than I am in you liking me or disliking me. So take that anger that you have towards me and take action towards your enlightenment, and then eventually you'll get over it. That's it, my friends. I wish you all the best. And if I don't get beamed up to the Starship Enterprise, and or if the Flash don't come, I will see you all very soon. Please take very good care of yourselves.